When building an entrepreneurial business, you will never reach the goals you want for your business or yourself without systematizing your business. On the Building to Scale podcast, our mission is to help you, the entrepreneurial business owner, find clarity in what is holding you back in your business today, as well as guide you in building a more profitable, scalable, and ultimately saleable business. In the first episode of Season 2, Jeff Chastain talked about the idea of a pinnacle goal for your business. If you missed that episode, jump back and take a listen, as today, he will be walking through the process of taking that pinnacle goal and making it actionable. Here is Jeff Chastain.
Vision without execution is just a hallucination. You know, Thomas Edison had just so many great quotes when it comes to building a really great business and the applicability there. And good morning, this is Jeff Chastain here again, just looking to bring you a few bits of wisdom today to help you build a more profitable, scalable, and ultimately saleable business as always. Now, if you've been listening, you can probably guess this, but I tend to be a big planner. I like to have all the steps for a project lined out, and often I'll go through the steps first, double check all my materials against the plan, etc., kind of a thing. During this, who knows, maybe I'll even find a few questions, question a few steps in the plan, dig into them, see if that's really the right approach, possibly even rewriting part of the plan before I ever dive in. And you know what that can easily lead to is paralysis with it. That you end up overthinking things, trying to imagine every possible bump in the road, anything and everything that might happen, just because you honestly want to ensure that everything's going to go just absolutely perfect with the project. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever reached perfection on any project, really on anything. And there's always room to improve, but if I don't actually get started and actually take action, then granted the chances of perfection are zero at that point, obviously. So anybody else willing to admit that they can be like that or can think like that? And if not, well, at least I'm comfortable with who I am in that one. But where I'm trying to get to with this is that we've been talking over the last several weeks about the idea of strategy in your business. And I get the idea, or get the regular feedback from small businesses. I don't have time for strategy. We got to look at execution right now. And going back several episodes, we actually started off Season 2 here talking about the idea of defining a pinnacle in your business. So one, make sure you go back and bookmark that episode if you've not already. Should have it here in the show notes right below. But today what I wanted to do is dive into this a little bit more, start to build on that idea, going back to really Edison's quote, saying that vision or strategy without execution is just a hallucination. You see, you can have an incredible business plan, but if you don't actually execute on that plan, it's probably not worth the paper, either real or digital these days, that it's actually written on. And I mean, just looking at reading, refining that plan, it's not actually going to get you a business, much less a profitable one that you want. And it's not going to put money back into your account there at the end of the day. What you've got to do is you've got to be able to execute on that plan in order to have a successful business and hopefully execute well on it. So before I go down that path, I want to clarify something though. The flip side of my personality is that a person who just wants to jump right into things. They have no need, no desire for any kind of plan. It's just, we're going to go get started here. And honestly, most of the time, they'd simply prefer to kind of figure things out as they go. And what I equate this to is just jumping into a car and saying, hey, we're going to go for a drive with no real destination, no real map, no real plan. And while the ride may be fun, the journey along the way, in the end, you're going to burn a lot of gas. You're not really going to get much of anywhere, at least where you want to be. And when business leaders operate on a day-to-day basis or even a month-to-month basis, always chasing that latest shiny object, that latest trend, you're wasting a lot of resources. So in the words of Fitzhugh Dodson, if I can pronounce that, without goals and plans to reach them, you're like a ship that set sail with no destination. again, just not a real profitable way to run a business. And you see, this is where strategy bleeds over into execution. So, mentioned it last time, I work with business leaders on what I refer to as a strategic vision and execution plan. It's a simple 2-page plan that really covers both aspects, both the strategy and the execution, because they go hand in hand. And with this idea of planning, it breaks down into 4 different levels. So first, your pinnacle, which is usually 10 to 15 years out. That's the peak right there you're aiming for. Second is 3 to 5 year milestones. Third is your annual plans, and finally, your quarterly plans. So you can see how we're starting to step that back closer and closer here. And taking this from the top, we dug into the idea of the pinnacle, like I said, back in the first episode of season 2. So if you missed that, not going to go into detail here. Make sure go back and check out that episode here. But the short version is that really your pinnacle is a huge goal. It's an objective sitting way out on that horizon. Now, again, I typically advise business owners that it should be 10 to 15 years out in most cases. Sometimes it's closer, but still, it needs to be something way on out there. And it doesn't have a lot of details around it. And really, to some extent, honestly, if it's a good goal, if it's a good pinnacle, you're not even certain that you can accomplish it. It's that big, it's that much of a reach. But what it does is it creates a sense of excitement for you and your team. Thinking, hey, what if we really could do that? What if we really could reach that? And on the flip side, it creates a sense of fear in your competitors. What if they actually do achieve that? What are we going to do now? So it just gives you something to aim for. It's that end point on your journey here that you're trying to aim for. So now that we've got the destination in mind, we just take off running, right? And granted, this is definitely the way that some people approach this, and as you can probably guess, not really one I'd recommend. Like I said, did I mention before that I was a planner here? So put it this way. Imagine your journey as a business as if it were a road trip here. You're driving from one side of the country to the other, or since I'm here in Texas, and one side of Texas to the other is pretty much halfway across the country, it seems. Think about suppose I want to go on vacation here. I don't like to have personally every minute planned out. There are big things I want to do. Maybe take a hike on a specific trail or hit a specific restaurant kind of a thing. But I'm not going to sit there and plan out every meal, every detail of every day. I want the flexibility to adjust and to try things along the way. So taking this in the context of that road trip, suppose I was driving from Dallas out west to El Paso. 9-10 something hour drive at that point. Now, the most direct route would take me through Fort Worth, out to Abilene, through Midland, on to El Paso kind of a thing. Fairly straight, direct route. But what if I wanted to, suppose, swing by Lubbock and see Texas Tech, which is up north of that route? It's not on the direct path. And if I was just to set out and go and follow road signs from here to El Paso, I'd never end up seeing it because it's off that path somewhat. It's something out there I'd want to see. So when planning that trip, I lay out specific milestones going on that journey. I know in my journey all the way to El Paso, the first milestone, first major landmark out there, suppose is Abilene. I know it's about a third of the way there. So the idea is that, okay, I know if I've hit Abilene, I'm on the right path. Now, enough about the super exciting geography of West Texas, which, if you've ever driven through it, there's not a lot to be excited about there. There's not a lot out there. But bringing this back around to the concept of the business, we've got that pinnacle goal sitting out there 10 to 15 years away. So the question is, what must you accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years so that you know if we reach this milestone in 3 to 5 years, then we're on the right track to be able to reach our pinnacle goal in 10 to 15. Now, the milestone should be in sharper focus than the pinnacle, simply because, hey, it's only about a third of the way there. It's a lot closer. And as part of the overall plan, the milestone should include specific measurables, thinking like total profit or revenue rate at that point. Maybe, who knows, things like a product launch that we're going to have launched a new product or an expansion into a new territory by this point. Maybe it's simply the fact that, hey, as a small solopreneur right now, you've hired 5 new people to start managing, to start filling out your functionality and your process accountability charts there to hand off some of the hats that you're wearing right now. So it really varies with everybody, kind of based upon your situation and where you're trying to go. But the bottom line is you need clear markers, i.e. the highway markers, the road signs here, to know if you've actually achieved your milestone by the date planned. So obviously, again, it needs a date, but you need specific markers there to say, okay, yes, we have achieved this. Now, one point of clarification here. Again, going back, I didn't plan out every step of the journey from here to our first milestone. That milestone's still far enough out there that honestly a lot can happen between now and then. 3 to 5 years is still a long time in business right now. Plans can change to take advantage of opportunities that present themselves, or honestly plans may have to change based upon outside circumstances that we did not foresee. The idea here, though, is that those milestones are markers along the journey with the goal of letting us know we're on the right track. We've got something that we're aiming for here. Yeah, we may have to course correct a little bit, but we know where we're going. So again, you've got your pinnacle at 10 to 15 years out. You've got your first major milestone now at 3 to 5 years out. What's next? What we want to do is keep bringing this back one step closer, one step closer. So the next one in, the next closer in is what we want to look at is your annual plan. So again, the same kind of ideas in mind, just a little bit sharper focus, a little bit more detailed, saying, okay, what do we want to accomplish in the next 12 months to know that you're on track to reach your first milestone? So again, shorter time frame, the details should be getting a lot sharper here. So write down a date for your annual goal. What's your annual? Maybe it's tied to your financial annual or your year-end calendar, however you want to do it. But 12 months out the way. And then again, additional measurables with that date. So profit, revenues, specific goals you're trying to accomplish within the next 12 months. And these goals, like I said, should be getting a lot more specific. Do you have a product design in place and soliciting feedback so that you've got your new product line at market and profitable by your first milestone? Have you hired specific team members you need in order to fulfill goals at your milestone right there? Do we need to have certain people getting in place? Whatever the case may be, again. But we've got, again, that pinnacle, that milestone, now the annual, and now we're back to our last level of planning. So bringing this, again, one step closer and really getting specific at this point is say, okay, what do we have to accomplish this quarter, the next 90 days to ensure that we're on track to reach our annual goals at this point? So again, I always start with specific growth measurements, profit, revenue, profit per employee, kind of a thing. We want specific numbers in there. And then again, outline specific projects that we must accomplish this quarter. Maybe it's a new marketing campaign complete or a new employee onboarded. Maybe it's just defining out your functional accountability chart where we know, okay, who do we need? Either way, whatever, again, but the thing is, at this level, we truly want specifics. We know exactly what we're doing over the next 90 days here. And on top of that, we want to know specifically who is responsible, who's accountable for ensuring that each one of these projects is on time. So again, mentioned this before, but it's this idea, remember what's measured and what's reported on is what's going to get done. So again, make sure we've got projects clearly defined, make sure they've got somebody accountable for it. That's the idea of rocks, and we'll talk about that later. But so the idea at this point is where I'm working with business leaders to build out this strategic plan and go into execution. Again, keeping it simple, just 2 simple little pages. So just keep that in mind, those 4 levels here, again, just getting a little bit more detailed every time we get a little bit closer there. So again, that first pinnacle at 10 to 15 years, pretty fuzzy. Second is the first milestone at 3 to 5 years. Third is the annual plan. And last is your quarterly or your 90-day plan. And then as time progresses, we build kind of this 90-day world where every 90 days you go in and update your quarterly plan. Then as you get closer, hey, we're going to update our annual plan every year. Then we'll potentially set a new milestone out there once we reach the milestone. So it's this ongoing iterative process here that we go through. So I know I went through that pretty quick. As always, if you've got any questions, jump over to the Building to Scale community for small business entrepreneurs like yourself. Just jump over to buildingtoscale.com/group. Request your invite there. We'd love to have you. Love to answer any questions you've got over there. Until next time, again, this is Jeff Chastain, simply with that reminder, take one step today towards building a more profitable, a more scalable, and ultimately more saleable business. Take care.
Thanks again for listening to today's episode of the Building to Scale podcast, where it is our mission to help you, the small business entrepreneur, build a more profitable, scalable, and ultimately saleable business. If you enjoyed today's topic, please take a moment and leave us a rating in your favorite podcast player, as that helps other entrepreneurs find the show. Then, if you are the owner of a small, entrepreneurial business, come join the Building to Scale community, where we provide additional coaching and support to business owners just like you. Request your invite at buildingtoscale.com/group. Thanks again for listening.